Brothers Talking is made possible with the financial support of Goodwill Industries of Southeastern Wisconsin and Metropolitan Chicago, and generous Chicagoans like you.
Hello, I am Dr. Obari Cartman, and welcome to Brothers Talking, a monthly program that will bring a cross-generation group of Black men together, creating a safe and brave space for honest discussion about the challenges, opportunities, fears, and strengths of Black men. The goals of Brothers Talking is to amplify and explore the lived experiences of Black men, the pain, joy, success, failure, and the resulting pathways for growth and self-discovery. Before we get started, let me quickly reintroduce the brothers taking this 10-month journey together. Wallace Gator Bradley, Jordan Sorrell, Daniel Ash, Xavier Ramey, and Reginald Edwards. Let me also welcome three brothers from the Goodwill Industries Boys and Men of Color program who are joining us in the circle tonight. William Thomas, Rico McGee, and Jonathan Garrido. Am I saying your name right? Who's Jonathan? Say your name. How you say it?
Oh, well, Hispanic, so
say
Jonathan
your name right.
Garrido.
This is it.
Garrido.
Perfect. Yeah. There we go. Garrido. Welcome, brothers. It's a bunch of y'all today, man. We got like barbershop quartet, like we got 6 tenors and 2 quartets. We got the altos, tenors, and shit. We skipping the goals this week, so we can give a chance for our new brothers to welcome to the circle and introduce themselves. Let us know, who you are and what you're into and what you're about before we get into the topic of the day. I promised y'all I would ease y'all in with no real tough personal questions, so we can start easy. Whoever wants to take it, I just want to know if anyone's had any recent experience with erectile dysfunction. Nobody? No, okay.
No personal question.
No, okay, no. All right, we'll skip that. I'm gonna come back to the end. Just y'all can start with just more about, what you love to do. Tell us about who you are, what you into, what you're passionate about.
What about the new
talents,
brothers?
passions,
Well, my name is Rico McGee, and what I'm more passionate about is I do music, I write.
Nice.
I do more writing, I talk about a lot of stuff in my music, not just what is going on on the outside. I talk about what's going on in my life and who I want to be. So I'm very strong about my music and how I want to be in my life and where I want to be.
Nice. You watch the Grammys?
Yeah.
Anybody you win that you wanted?
Not really.
You didn't like the Killer Mike that he swept? You wasn't?
Nah, not really.
You're locked up, man.
I think they let him out.
What's your stage name?
My stage name is Suave. SSDO, which stands for Same Since Day One. And
that's dope.
Basically how I've been since I've been a kid. I've been the same person. And I rap about my childhood and my life.
That's dope. Cool. Welcome to the circle. Who else? What you?
Yeah, my name is Jonathan Garrido, just as we said already. I'm most passionate about painting. I really love to express myself in a form of art. It ranges from just painting the smallest thing to ceramic pieces to painting, on canvases on how I feel. And it just ranges from the colors of shades,
Mm-hmm. Nice. And third brother?
My name is William Thompson. Most I'm passionate about is just fashion and how it's put pieces together and how you look and first thing somebody sees you is how you dress.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first appearance. I'm really, really big on fashion.
Very nice, very nice. Cool. I got some artists in the space. Mm-hmm. That's good. Y'all been watching the show? Y'all seen some of this before? Y'all know a little bit about what we do? Okay. So just one more question, just to get into it a little bit about, so we've been talking a lot about manhood. Anybody fathers? Anybody got kids?
No.
No kids?
I got kids.
Yeah, how many kids you got?
I got a real son, I got a stepson. I take care of my little brother too.
Okay, nice.
So 3 boys.
Mm-hmm. So, I'm just curious in this time, fathers and otherwise, as we think about, because y'all come from an organization about boys and men of color, and there's a lot of conversation about redefining masculinity, and I just kind of want to get y'all take before we get into the topic about what masculinity means to you, how it shows up, if you have a different idea of when you were young than you do now about what it means to show up as a Black man. And also, for the first time, we welcome in, our Latinx brothers, right? So this is represents solidarity across, the boundaries that we usually divide things in that allows us to expand this conversation a little bit. And so we've, y'all have different language for even what y'all describe as machismo, and but there's a lot of commonalities between how we think of the posturing and the presentation that men are forced and pressured into get into. So I want to know what y'all thoughts about that. So y'all were invited to talk about, man stuff, but I wanted to define that a little bit, just from y'all experiences, what y'all thoughts, what y'all ideas about what it means to be a man, a black, a brown man, 2024, challenges, obstacles, opportunities. Just your first thoughts about that.
I would say I'll go first. Like, it's always like a way of like, you always gotta be like the manly of men, but sometimes like you just wanna like lay down and just relax and like with your girl hands and like just relaxing with your girl. You don't want to be just like always like I'm always the man of the stuff. Sometimes you just wanna relax, and sometimes you just like it's okay, you get like your nails done and then like your feet done. Like it's always good. So it's always like people judge you for that and stuff like that. But let's always make sure like you keep yourself like good. Yeah. Make sure your body's good, because no one's gonna tell you what to do with your body. You gotta do it for yourself. So that's pretty much it.
Nice. I need to get my nails done.
To me, basically masculinity means to me like basically like how I grew up. I never had a father in my life. I never had a father figure in my life. So nobody taught me the right way on how to be a man. So like having kids now, like I really didn't know the steps to going to like raise kids and being that masculine presence that's inside my home. But the way that the kids look at me, they see me as, basically they follow me. So they want to be just like me. So I can't be doing other stuff that's gonna basically take away from them. So basically showing them the wrong way of being a man. But I never knew how to be a man myself, so I'm really not sure on which route to take. So I'm just going as I go. But as I'm in the house, my girl cook, she do a lot of stuff, woman stuff, but it's like I'm overly being a man to her. Like I think I'm more aggressive on how she should be a woman, on what the things she should do as a woman, instead of me saying myself like, or having somebody teach me or telling me like, oh no, that ain't how you approach the situation. So to me, like being masculine, I really don't know what's the right steps of being masculine and taking them steps of being a real man in a household. But I'm trying and I'm going like, I'm taking different steps on, like, I'm trying different ways basically. But basically just taking a lot of things away from me. I'm working more, so I do a lot of working. I do a lot of writing. I do a lot of stuff to like teach my kids like there's better ways out here than being like an aggressive man to your family, like where nobody's really understanding you, because the anger, like I got so much anger in me basically towards like, cause I never was taught how to be a man or had that masculine presence for nobody that's around me and my family. But I still push forward to it. Like I feel like I'm over masculine. Like I don't do nothing that'll take away from my masculinity. Like it'd be hard for me to say, oh, let me go shopping or let me go wash clothes. I'll be telling my girl like, go do that, or you go do that. Like, and to me, like that's basically how I see it.
I think this is a great step for you. Just this foundation that we're doing right now, being able to express your feelings and being able to go back and show your kids this. This is a good start for you, just in my personal opinion. So
yeah. I think the thing I appreciate most about is you kept coming back to I don't know. And once you get to that place of like being open to discovery, then you get to really be a student and learn. Because when you say I know, then that's what it is and you really stuck there. But if you lean and say, I don't really know, I never really thought about it. I haven't seen it, I know I want something different, but I get to imagine and then find other examples and then create what I want through the I don't knows. So I would encourage you to lean into that, the openness of the discovery place, because we always learning, but sometimes men get stuck in these boxes and it gets real rigid. And
you know the most important thing, you at that 50% threshold. You ain't afraid to say that you don't know. So it starts the trajectory going up, where you realize that there's no such thing as a dumb question. You know what I mean? That's what brings about the comprehension. You know, all of us sitting here, We didn't know what it was meant to be a man, whether we had a father in the house or what it was. You know what I mean? So your place, I can share this with you. If you have a woman that's with you, that's willing to clean up and feed you, don't feel like she being masculine by saying, can you wash the clothes?
Right.
You follow what I'm saying?
Right.
Okay, you got to see that, because first off, you got to understand that, in my opinion, all women are way ahead of us because we come out their womb. They're gonna be sharper and faster than us, okay? And when you in a relationship, you gotta be like a help meet instead of being a master over it. That's just some school of thought. I had to learn it myself. So, like I say, don't feel bad about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Okay, and one more thing, in my opinion, the circle that we all in is because we have to ask one another, if not ourselves, certain questions. Are we being, whether it's the man of the house or the provider or whatever it is, but you at the right time, you willing to work, you willing to be the example for the children that you have and the ones that you're taking care of, man. So I'm letting you know, in my opinion, you done manned up.
Yeah. I just feel like aggression. I feel like aggression to me is masculine. Mm-hmm. Basically, I'm providing for the family. Mm-hmm. I'm doing everything. I feel like I want my woman to just stay at home. That's cool with me. That's how I grew up, seeing a lot of men take care of the household. So I'm like, to me, I don't want to go 50-50 with my girl. I'd rather just take care of the house, she take care of the kids, and take care of that part. And I still do that part with her. But she be so on set like, oh, I want to work myself. I want to do this myself, and I want to do this. Okay, that's cool. And but to me, I feel like I'm masculine enough to do it myself.
Hey man, let me share something with you. Even with that thought, even with that thought, it's still 50-50.
Right.
Even with that thought, you follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You want to be the man of the house. Don't worry about you just lay here and stay barefooted and have babies. That ain't it, man. I'm just giving it to you. I guarantee you, you have less stress and agitation and all that, because as long as you doing what you feel that you want to do to help, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And she probably want to say, hey, I need to help you sometime. Right. You know, you got to allow her to do that, man, or you gonna have problems. And you not meaning to make the problem. Y'all help me out here, man. Y'all act like y'all ain't
you started, let me tell you something, man. You started like that, man. We out. I mean, it's your birthday, you're 72, you got a hat on.
That's what they call elder syndrome, man. That's all that is, man. That's all that is, man.
But yeah. I mean, to me, the question, that's why I leaned in discovery, because even when you say, this is what I thought a man should be, I think it's important for us to just pause for as many moments as possible to even ask that question, like, why I don't even think that? Where did I get that from? Yeah. Who told me that? Right? And once we go really try to discover what ideas and concepts are in our brain, and then ask if that's good or bad for us, if it makes sense, if it's healthy, if it's, if it's just what I saw, or if it's just what somebody showed me on TV, but not really what I need or makes sense for me in my house, then that's when we get stuck. So my suggestion is always ask questions. Mm-hmm. Where did I get this idea from? Why do I think this? How does it showing up in my life? And then keep evaluating, and then having like some standard of what is good and right along the journey. Mm-hmm. And good and right for me means people are safe, people are happy, you got joy, you got rest, people are healthy, people are like productive and learning. And if that's not happening, then you got to look at like, wait, what do I need to adjust? And that's a constant process. I'm always asking those questions. Where did I get that from? But that question myself, where did I get that from, has taken me lots of different places, that has freed me from boxes that I just inherited without the true ownership of it. You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add is that I want to step back. I think first thing we just need to tell ourselves is, I'm enough. You know,
like what I'm doing, where I'm at, I'm enough in a moment, right? Sometimes and then we got to question if I'm feeling things, you know, like I felt anger, I felt frustration. Why is that happening? And take that moment, you know, because something's behind it. You know, I didn't grow up with, my father died when I was 7. I had a lot of frustration and anger because my dad died all of a sudden. I didn't have that. And I was always like, why am I struggling? But then I took a moment back and said, I had family, I got my community, my people, and I'm good. Sometimes it's taking that moment to step back, but to really have those words. I'm a firm believer in power words, you know, and then doing the work, you know, because it takes time. Because think about it, most people are trying to figure out, most people just don't know. People mask up and look like they're good, but a lot of people out here still struggling. They're still figuring it out. 42 years old, I'm still figuring it out. I'm out there. I'm a little bit better than I was at 20, but I'm still, you know, I'm still struggling. I'm still trying to, you know, because I don't know. But I know I'm enough today. I know I'm gonna be enough tomorrow.
That's good. You have something?
I think first step, man, when I was 30, I'm 38 now. When I was about 30, I stepped back and I was like, what's the point here? Because I had made enough mistakes and I had already gone down enough rabbit holes and hurt myself enough to know that I needed to think a little bit about what masculinity was, what maleness was, what manhood was, and these things. And the first thing I had to do was I had to remove myself from this box of thinking that I define my masculinity and malehood on the basis of my relationships to women. That sounds simple. It's not simple. Like if when you start saying how you're a man and immediately you start comparing it to how you are around women, you've already put yourself in a box. Like you've already limited your entire conversation of self-identity. At that point, oftentimes I realize it's a question of we start thinking about duty, what we're supposed to do. And instead of thinking about just duty, there's another side of it, which is integrity, which is what I think the world is asking for from a lot of men, a different type of integrity. When they talk about toxic masculinity, they're not talking about where we're not showing up in terms of duty and production in the home. It's talking about how we relate to the earth, how we relate to anybody, how we relate to animals, how we show up, how we understand the aggression that we may have, and whether or not we're engaging in a conversation with other people who can hold that aggression rather than taking it out on people who need something from us in the moment. Like stepping back and considering what is masculinity if it's not just in service of or in sight of another woman. It also opens us up to understand how all masculinity, in order for it to be real, it has to include the whole spectrum of ways in which men exist. Like there are queer men, there are straight men, there are short men, tall men, like all of that, that exists beyond and without any need to compare to women. And so I would just say that, like, who are you if it's not about you being in a relationship? What is your manhood if it has nothing to do with a woman? And start there.
At Goodwill, we transform lives through the power of work. We believe work is at the heart of human potential. Through a bold mission of connecting people to work, preparing people for life, Goodwill Industries of Southeastern Wisconsin and Metropolitan Chicago is creating meaningful impact in the communities where we live, work, and serve. By eliminating barriers, we are making fulfilling work available to all so that individuals and communities can thrive. Go to goodwillsew.com to learn how to have the power to support our mission.
I mean, that leads us to our topic too today. So part of what we're talking about is deep interrogation of who we are, what it means, and how much of that has been shaped by systems of racism, oppression that we just eat, and we just internalize, we just embody without even thinking about it. So we're gonna take a moment to think about it and really just ask those questions about self-hate. We've been talking about self-love and empowerment and those kind of things, but we're gonna take a moment to talk about what does self-hate mean and how that shows up in our life, whether or not it's connected to race or not, whether it's something around human nature. But I want to get into the topic for a second. According to an August 2023 article published on openaccessgovernment.org, frequent exposure to racism impacts long-term mental health. often influencing racial trauma, leading to self-hatred and a low sense of self-worth. The impact of internalized racism on Black people is a huge factor in racial trauma, and internalized racism commonly leads to self-hatred and a low sense of self-worth. How does anti-Black rhetoric affect us? We commonly receive messages of inferiority, including television shows that depict Black people as unintelligent, criminal, prone to violence, and sexually promiscuous. There is underrepresentation of Black people in positions of leadership and power, and lack of justice received by Black people in our judicial system. According to researchers Dr. Janae M. Steele and Shamika S. Newton, both licensed mental health professionals, internalized racism sounds like it might be easy to identify in yourself. It could look simply like choosing a different pair of shoes to fit in with others. It is about altering your appearance or behavior to fit into white cultural norms. It could be hiding in plain sight in your habits, preferences, diet, and values. It is not just a Black thing. Carlos P. Hipólito Delgado, an associate professor of counseling at the University of Colorado, Denver, conducted a survey of 350 first-generation Latinx college students from 93 universities across 29 states. Hipólito Delgado found his students with more exposure to racial discrimination and a higher degree of acculturation to U.S. culture and values were more likely to internalize bias, according to his recent study, addressing ethnic self-hatred in Latinx undergraduates that was published in the Counseling Today. Addressing these feelings of internalized racism is significant, he said, since it is not just a passing phenomenon and can ultimately result in students' conscious or unconscious acceptance that they are culturally and intellectually inferior to whites. So brothers, let's talk about that. Self-hatred, internalized racism, what comes to mind? Does that sound like it triggers ideas? Does it sound like we ain't even know that no more? Does it sound like...
To me,
it is,
like I was saying earlier, by me being in this political realm, it's almost like sometimes I feel like I'm between a rock and a hard place of racism and discrimination. By me being a political consultant, I sometimes have to say, okay, let me go and see if the Black candidate want to hire me to help them with the job. Then they discriminate against me because they want to work with a white consultant.
Would you call that self-hatred? Would you say the Black people that don't want to work with you?
Yeah, that's self-hatred to me. That's discrimination to me.
I got it, yeah.
Okay? And then the racism part comes is when my community say Gator he must have sold out his race because there's a white candidate that's willing to hire him. And I ease out of it by saying they're both Democrats. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you probably do it. Anybody that's professional went through this, probably go through the same thing.
That's real.
How I get around self-hate, because you know that internally come into you, that you taking in. You almost can't get rid of it because you got to look at them and say, man. And I feel it, especially in February.
Black History Month.
When doing Black History Month. I feel it more then.
Yeah.
Because everyone is talking to red, black, and green, but they talking about that get with the Black business. We got to get Black business, and then you fight for Black business, and you go to the business person who you fight for. And they look at you as if they the new world lord or slave owner.
Yeah. So how you think about internalizing that? What does that mean? Like, how do we carry that? Do anybody feel like they...
You think you're not worth it? I mean, what Gator's talking about, man, like he's a consultant. You know, I run a management consulting firm. Like, I deal with that all the time. I deal with people of color who I know what they're paying other consulting firms. And around other Black folks, they'll be like, oh man, I would love to have a smart Black, we never have Black consultants because most people don't hire Black people for what they think. Right? We try to build a company or a profession around what a Black person thinks. First, there has to be a market value for that, and you have to deal with a lot of the systemic issues and as well as the interpersonal issues around bias and racism before you can even get to the question around, can I actually make this something that can sustain my life and the lives of others? Like, you run into, man, I've been in those rooms so many times where, you know, you go to the all Black event and everybody's like, yeah, we need to work with more Black folk. We need more Black. Oh, you do this, you do that. Next time we work. And when you actually get to the contracting part, It's not there. It's not there. And there's all the questions around competency, around professionalism, like you weren't professional, or the way you approach it, these sorts of things. And I've spent enough money on other black consultants and brown consultants and people to help me build up on those things, because for years I thought, maybe this is the way it's internalized. Maybe it's me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm off. I'm doing this wrong. Or I'm not jumping through enough of the hoops, or I'm not doing it the right way. I've had black elders in Chicago who say, hey man, X, what you're doing, the way you're doing it, and how much you're charging, man, we would price that around $400,000 a contract to work with our team, big company that they're representing. When it actually comes down to it, they won't go above 30,000.
Right.
Right? Like, that's the reality. And that turns into what you can pay your black and brown employees and your women employees and your queer employees. Like, it turns then into a question of the ability to provide living wages for folks. Meanwhile, the conversation is always, let's support our people. But the reality is the people that should be gate smashers are just gatekeepers.
Right.
And that is a perpetuated challenge and problem throughout our city. And I think part of the challenge is that there's not a lot of consequence or accountability around it, because who's going to call out the person who made it up the top when very few of us ever make it at all?
Right.
And it's hard. This is the internalized side. Like, you can be like me, have a degree in economics. You can be a global keynote speaker. You can have worked with some of the largest and smallest organizations. You can be committed to anti. You can make an entire definition for anti-racism for one of the top 5 universities in the world, and they'll still say, "You missed something. You missed something." And it's hard not to, one, take that personally. It's then hard because you can have the anger grow.
Yes, sir.
The anger grows. Because a dream deferred, does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or does it explode? And sometimes you feel like exploding, and then it's we knew you was.
We knew you gonna do that,
We knew
the gangster gonna
and
come out.
It's like you're just fighting both sides. And I think the biggest challenge with that is, so few black folks get to a certain level that they assume even if you're doing halfway better than them, you at Obama's level by now.
Right, that's how they feel.
So the folks who aren't there are like, man, this dude getting everything, like you were saying, like this dude's on top. And I'm like, brother, no. But it's hard not to take it personal. It's hard not to get angry about it. It's hard not to make blanket statements because of it. It's hard to keep going. And it's hard to be creative and innovative to figure out a solution to build for your own communities when your own community doesn't support you. It's hard to keep building for folks who refuse to build with you. That's tough.
I want to focus in on the take it personal part.
Yeah.
So they say, and they can say whatever they want, but when we believe it is when it hurts us. What are y'all other experiences of I've heard messages, but then when I wake up in the morning, look myself in the mirror, I believe that thing that they've said. Less worthy, less intelligent, maybe even more predisposed for criminality, whatever the stereotype is. When I've accepted that, how does that show up? What does that mean?
When I look in the mirror, the one thing that helped me carry on and drive through is the Book of Job.
Okay.
As I call it is. You know what I mean? I've helped made senators, judges, Supreme Court judges. That's why I created a whole profession as an urban translator. Because they kept saying, hey, if I get a job, I can just do this. I said, okay, that should be easy for everybody to understand. Get a man a job. But then I fight for the contract to make sure that he get the job. And the person that's supposed to give him the job don't give him the job, right? So then I go to that person that I help, say, man, hire that man. Okay, get him to hire him. So I said, okay. Like the Hispanic community, they have someone to speak Espanol to let them understand. We, as African Americans, got a cultural wall we got a problem. Talking about we as a people, in my opinion. We hate the fact that an individual may not know all the answers to all the questions, but he do know an answer to your question if you ask it. Oh, we ain't gonna talk with him. We think he know too much. You follow what I'm saying? Okay. I'm in a meeting it's like ceasefire. Ceasefire program came from a program that I put together because I was the one that had the responsibility to go around to all the gang leaders for them to stop killing one another. And each one of the organizations create their 501c3. So it became where my responsibility, because the gang leaders made it where I was the consigliere. Wherever there was a war, everything else, I just show up and say, hey, y'all got to stop because y'all leaders say y'all shouldn't be fighting one another. So we need to find a fiduciary agent. Like they wouldn't give us the money, but they would give it to someone else. So I go to who I perceive was the leader in our community, which was the spiritual leader. Bring them all there, and then he bring a white guy in. Don't hear from him in 2 years. That thing, you know, you see your program name change. Then all the guys that you was helping to get their own 501c3 end up getting hired instead of their business getting hired. First thing they say, well, we got to make sure that Gator don't get a position because he know Larry Hoover. And I'm looking in the room, dude, you was a governor, you was a regent, you know Larry Hoover too. Well, you know, Gator, we got to get the money. So I didn't get mad. I took United in Peace, put a comma behind it, and put INC. And that's how we got to move with realness when we know what the truth is, because it ain't nothing new. Our forefathers and our grandmothers and granddaddies had that same energy. You know what I mean? And it wasn't about how smart they were. It was the fact of the work ethic that they put into the sweat equity, that's what I'm looking for, that they put into, and then they did this and saying, hey, whatever y'all do, y'all go to school. Then they said to school, then we get discombobulated and taught just to work for someone instead of being like our forefathers that created something. That's why we in the dilemma that we in now. That's why I was pushing community law.
I got you.
You know what I mean? So I'm glad that you got this topic, because this is what we live in.
Yeah.
And we sometimes lie to ourselves about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're a great doctor. Okay? But people feel like coming to you for therapy is like crazy, when, hey, you can be a great therapist if all of us was white. Everybody needs someone to talk to.
And that's
come
what
to
I'm
their
getting at. So people are always going to think, people are always going to say, but what we accept, what we receive, is where the power is.
Right.
Right. So I'm just curious, how are other guys experiencing that? Are y'all taking it in? Is y'all deflecting it? Are everybody else crazy if they don't see how intelligent you are, or how valuable you are? Or does it take a toll after a while where you really feel like, maybe they're right. Maybe I keep bumping up into these walls because there's something wrong with me. How has that been internalized by y'all?
Okay, to me, basically, okay, so I was younger. I did a little time, did 3 years in prison. So it was like getting out and getting back into the world.
Yeah.
Everybody saw me like, oh, he gonna go back. He gonna do the same thing. He not gonna change his life around.
Yeah.
Okay, I understood that. I didn't stop a lot of stuff I was supposed to stop.
Yeah.
So I saw what they were seeing. So I look at myself in the mirror. I'll be like, okay, I'm not gonna do what they expect, be the person they expect me to be.
Yeah.
But it's like I keep going down this route or taking the same route. And it's not like by like me doing it on purpose. It's like coming out of nowhere.
Would you call that self-hate when you were doing stuff you knew you weren't supposed to do? You knew it was gonna lead you back into a place that you didn't want to be in. Was it because you didn't believe you were deserving of better? Was that like
enough people have told me that I wasn't, to the point that I look at myself like, you know what, they right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I'm not gonna change, or I'm not gonna go a different route.
Yeah.
Like health-wise, I got a bad heart.
Yeah.
In my face, in my eyes, I'm like, that's never gonna get fixed.
Yeah.
And that's never gonna go away. I'm gonna have to deal with it. So how I see stuff is just like, I got a lot of self-hate about myself and what I go through and the stuff, the choices I pick.
Yeah.
But it's like, it got to the point where I'm like, it don't stop me from keep going, but it's helping me get over a lot of hurdles that I was never gonna be able to get over without them even looking at me and saying that I'm not gonna change.
Yeah.
it's like I use that to help me.
Because like yet here you are, right? So are you saying you've transformed some of that,
right?
Or you just carry it? You just like, nah, I feel it, but I'm gonna drag it.
Yeah, I don't throw it off. I don't throw it to the side. I keep it with me because I feel like that's keeping me going.
Nice.
So to me, I don't look for the good critics people got to say about me.
Yeah.
I look for the bad critics because anybody can say something good about you.
Yeah.
They don't got to know you to say something good about you.
Yeah.
But it takes a person that really know you to say something bad about you.
Yeah.
To know who you are and to know that they can see a change in you for real.
Yeah.
But you don't see it in yourself. And a lot of people don't see that, and they self-hate themselves in a lot of ways to the point they bring themselves down.
Yeah. That's fascinating. We talk about other people evaluating us. You added that dynamic that's so important. Those other people self-hate. And then we take on the criticism of somebody else who hate themselves, and then it turns into hate for us. Right? What a strange, I mean, how much power we give away to other people that don't even love themselves, you know what I'm saying? So how do y'all navigate that? There's a certain sense where you should get to a place where you don't care what nobody think, and you can just stay focused, but we communal people, we interact with, it's hard to not.
So sometimes, like for me, I feel like I'm overconfident in certain situations. I'm like, yeah, I know what I'm doing, but sometimes that little doubt in your head, back of your head, like, yo, like relax a little bit, or sometimes like, hey, like relax.
Yeah.
But also like from the self-hate part, or that even feeling like worthy, even as well. So me personally, I just moved out to Uptown, and I just got a nice apartment. But for me, it's like, do I really deserve that, and do I really feel worthy enough in this world to even be in this building with people that's way.
Where is that coming from, do you think? How would
for me, it's like self-hating, like in myself, and like, am I worth enough?
Right, but the source of that, you think that's things that you heard along the way?
Yeah.
That's looks people give you when you walk into the building?
Yes, or they just, they look at you, or they give you application, and like they look just like as the numbers, not the person. And they're like, job history, credit score. But if you look at the human, like, oh, he's a good guy, and ultimately he could probably do something with that. But some people just look at numbers. Like, you're just a number, or you're just beneath them at the most part.
I think I'm asking even a different question. I'm asking, fuck what they see. Like, they can, whatever they look at, what do you believe about who you are? How do we find a sense of authenticity and how we evaluate ourselves, regardless of what somebody looking at the application will see?
Yeah. So with that, phrase it a different way.
I'm asking, so you say you notice the self-hate.
Yes.
You notice the lack of worth. I'm asking about where, if you can identify the source of that, and then once you identify that, what do we do with that? So if the source is external, if it's because my school teacher when I was in third grade told me, right, and then I stuck with me, it came out like a tape that rolls.
Well, it's like same thing like when you're in high school or in middle school or elementary, like everybody turn the lights off and like, oh, where you at?
Yeah.
It's what the hell?
Yeah.
Or just like, oh, you're black, or why you here?
Yeah.
Do you really like feel worthy enough? But like you keep that stuff back in your mind, like, okay, cool. But sometimes like I feel like in certain like situations, like I'm overbearing on certain situations. I'm overconfident, overconfident, and I overcompensate while being that as well. So I have to be 10 times better than my next person next to me as well. And I probably still won't get recognized at the end of the day. But I can try every other day, just come in, like I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Times X.
That brings me back to what you said in the beginning about getting to a place where you just, I'm enough. Right. There's so many, like even our national slogans, Black Lives Matter, are begging for somebody to see us as worthy. I am a man, like I am somebody. We always begging somebody, like, hey, we here, we value. But like to what end is that worth the 10 times better, the pressure to prove to somebody else that we worthy, versus saying, I don't even care no more. Like I need to be enough for myself. We as a people need to decide that we enough for each other, and then we can build on that, and instead of being depleted by this constant convincing of somebody else. Like that seems like, I feel like we can turn the energy, direct that towards something that's more real than this facade of hoping that they change their mind. You know what I mean?
So for me, I think about my family. I think about family legacy, my family name. You know, my mom and everybody else put all this work, and so it's for me to, if I gotta go through what I need to go through, I'm gonna go through it, because at the end of the day, I'm about to hold our legacy up, and I'm gonna hold my name up, because that's all I have. Got my name, my word, and what I do.
Yeah.
And so, you know, yeah, life sucks.
Yeah.
Got to go through a lot. You know, got to go through all the other stuff, but I do the work. If I gotta struggle, like, man, why I'm in microaggressions? Why are people going behind my back doing this? Or, you know, because I just want to do well.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, shit, that's just how. You know, I'm not Jesus. Jesus is perfect, right? So I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to experience and feel these things. Because I know what's on the other side. Because what I do is tied to many people's destinies. Full stop. So if I'm gonna have to go through the pain, if I'm gonna have to go through the struggles or the triumphs, I'm gonna have to go through it all. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna show up. So if I'm one person, if I got the person I'm at my work, in my service, things like that, I have to go through it. It doesn't feel good. But life wasn't meant to feel good. Life was meant to have a purpose. And how do I fulfill my purpose if I can't go through the journey to get there in the steps? So that's how I do it. Sometimes I gotta take a pause and a break to do that. But I come back to that, and that's what keeps me motivated and driven, even with all the other noise and all the other nonsense. Because sometimes you just gotta starve out the distraction. I think it's as I get older, I get more comfortable, but I still feel it. Still human, but you know, I'm like, skip all that. You're gonna say what you're gonna say, but I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do.
How similar or different is this in the Latin community?
Well, it's actually very similar. I just want to share my personal experience with how I face self-hate. You know, growing up as a Hispanic individual, I've been talked down a lot by even my own same race, you know, and I feel like that's something that's not really talked about as much as we want it to be. Same racism, you know. And I look at myself in the mirror sometimes and I question, what if I was a white man? What if I was a tall white man with blonde hair, blue eyes? Like, why am I the way I am? And I've gotten all this, you know, all these ideas from just growing up, seeing how many Hispanics and African Americans were taken down from opportunities that, you know, they were given just because of the skin of their color, or because people didn't believe that they had the right, you know, space for that, that they didn't have the brain capacity to become a leader, you know? So it's honestly a really powerful thing with the Latino community as well, because, you know, as me, an individual, it's something that we always are struggling with, you know?
How you overcome that? What do you?
You know, to overcome that, you just gotta move on.
What have you done?
What have I done? Well, I've looked at myself and I say, you know, I may never be a perfect man in my eyes, but I need to understand that God made me this way. I am the way I am because there's always there's a purpose for me to be like this. I have to leave my mark around this world. I just hope that it's good enough to be remembered.
I love it. That's beautiful. And also, that still sounds a little bit like settling for what you got. And I would, as much as we talk about what white people have done, and I would not choose to be anything other than a black man every time I came back. Like over and over again, there's nothing else I would rather be. And I never had those moments of like wishing, and I wish I had their stuff sometimes. Sometimes I wish I had their stuff, right? I never wanted no blue eyes. I never, you know what I mean? I never had that moment where I was like, I wish I was something different. I always thought they was crazy. I always thought something was wrong with them. And so I never wanted to be in their shoes because I felt like what they acquired was through violence and they were maniacal. I mean, I never wanted to be on that side of it. So I don't, you know.
I mean, to hear you say that is very powerful, because I think, and it's a blessing that you were able to like have an existence where you never wanted that. Because I think society, our families, condition us to think of ourselves as less than.
Yeah.
And so as I hear this conversation unfold, I keep thinking about like this vicious cycle, right? When Xavier was speaking, he made me remember a black executive who said to me, just probably 25 years ago, hire that white consultant because you want to get your shit done, right? You want to sell whatever you got to sell. And I think about the type of that gatekeeper, the self-hate that he had sort of accepted, like, look, and justified.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put whoever's in the room to get the deal done, right?
Right.
Because it's gonna make me look better. You know, I think about the time, and this is gonna be, I shaved for about 2 years. I just clean shaved.
Yeah.
And it's not that long ago, actually, maybe about 10 years ago. And I convinced myself that I need to be a little more clean cut. But like, what was that code for? I remember, and I still struggle with this, I would say to people, oh, I hate my voice.
I was just saying that. I don't watch these shows because I don't like to hear my voice.
Yeah, I can understand. You said
it.
But I remember someone, early in my professional career, a white woman came up to me after I presented at a conference and said, you need to go and gargle marbles or rocks. Because you don't speak clearly and you speak too flat.
Wow. Just completely unsolicited.
Completely unsolicited. I'm like thinking I did a good job, right? Yeah. But you think about these moments, right, that we have, and what I'm really appreciating about what I'm hearing, like you have to put all that stuff in the sack and try to leave it behind. And if you can't leave it behind, you gotta, even if you're dragging it, you gotta constantly find a way to deflect that, right? So it's one thing I've said this a few times probably in this setting, that what I appreciate about the last, say, 10 years of my life, and I'm 54, is seeing some of my colleagues, particularly my younger colleagues, become more fearless in being who they are.
Yeah.
Dressing the way you want to dress.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea we can actually wear, you know, we know when our generation, I'm probably a little older than you, but you know, we used to love sneakers, but the idea, we basically said we're going to do what we're told to do.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
We ain't gonna wear no Jordans to the board meeting. Hell no.
Yeah.
And then it's like 50-year-old man, Gen Xer, I get this, I say, you know, we can do that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we've been liberated in some extent, so that we can embrace parts of ourselves as people of color, as black men and women, that we were told to set aside. And in some cases, it was my mother who told us to set it aside. Don't be too loud, right? You know, don't be dancing in the mall around all them white folks. You know, we could only celebrate and be joyful in really private, intimate spaces. And what I'm seeing now is like we could be fearless in our willingness and desire to express ourselves.
Yeah.
For me personally, that's actually given me more comfort speaking up. I look at brothers like Xavier. I was just like, Xavier giving keynotes all over the world. I could give one too.
Endurance.
Endurance. So that, but to be as people, to acknowledge, I have more. I've been inspired more by folks like Xavier and others in Chicago, and in just our sector, than some of the famous figures in our community. I mean, seriously. I mean, I may have been intellectually provoked by them, but in terms of how I've given myself permission to be, like you said, be that day one, be who I am. I love that.
Yeah.
You know, it's the people around me who've actually said, then you just go back to that.
Yeah.
And every time I start to slip, I just like, and this is why spaces like this are important. we have to help each other stay on that pathway.
Yeah,
We don't need that external validation.
Yeah.
We validate each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's so important. So today I had to go to our conference, our office downtown for my company. And when I got up, I was looking through my closet like, man, I gotta dress up, I gotta put on a suit. I was like, you know what, I ain't doing that. I'm not doing, I had on some different clothes earlier, but, cause I knew I was gonna be around, a lot of my colleagues are white men or white women. I was like, you know what, I'm about to just wear some Yeezys and some jeans and a t-shirt. But for some reason, even though we just gonna be sitting down at a desk all day doing nothing, I feel like I had to dress up. And I was like, I'm not doing that. But I felt like I had to keep up for a second because I felt I had to meet that, just look like everybody else. And I didn't want to stand out too much. But I'm glad I stepped back and I self-realized. I'm like, okay, Reggie, you can't do that. Be yourself. Live your authentic self. And that's where I feel the most comfortable. I don't feel comfortable in a suit and tie. That's not my type of thing. And then also kind of going back to the self-hate part, I realized that I have, I don't know if this is the proper term, but a lot of self-hate for sometimes our community. Sometimes I don't like, I try to support our black businesses or whatever the case may be. And I had to get to a point, I got to a point in my life where I'm like, I'm done supporting black businesses. I'm really big on customer service, and a lot of times I would go and support our black businesses and sometimes receive not so well customer service. But then I realized I had to take a step back and I had to realize, like, maybe it's a systems issue, maybe lack of resources, maybe lack of education. I had to look back on that from a bigger perspective to understand why I felt the way I felt. And now when I go into a black business, now I try to use the education, when I feel like, hey, if I feel something, if I feel offended by customer service or something that was supposed to be done, speak up, just like I would any other company, and just voice my opinion and try to provide resources or whatever the case may be. Some companies are okay with it, some not, but that's okay. I'm doing my part at the end of the day. So yeah.
I'm just curious before we wrap, we got a couple more minutes, if any of this conversation about self-hate is separate from race, if there are just things that we as men need to do better of, to just learn to love our voices, to love our bodies, to love how we move in the world, just to embrace who we are more authentically.
Me personally, I can speak for me, because that's what I've done. You have to come to the space and realize what our ancestors has done. When I put on a shirt, it's a cotton shirt, I say, hey man, it was a brother that came up with the cotton gin, but then it was the white boy that come up with, hey, you ain't got a patent.
Yeah.
So I like wearing a white cotton shirt.
Did you get some of that? You're 72. Tell us about 72. Yeah. We all looking towards 72.
Hey man, 72.
Did you get to a place where you just like, did you liberate after a while?
That's where I'm at now.
You ain't even care?
That's why I keep saying to God be the glory, because it's written in that book, 70.
Yeah.
Everything else is mellow, man. You know what I mean? And I say that because this Martin Luther King breakfast that the mayor had, right? And he made a reference to the school teacher that brought Martin Luther King over to the West Side. Because when Martin Luther King came to Chicago, he went to the West Side. And he said when he was a little boy, that was his teacher. So he remembered listening to them saying they got to go down to the City Hall, to the 5th floor, to talk to Daley, to talk about affordable housing. And he said, look at today. The school teacher that brought Martin to town and the student that he taught is not a mayor. When I watch the transformation of Jesse Jr., Jonathan Jackson, and watch that whole piece come full circle. When I watch some of the young gang bangers, I stop from doing what they did and, hey, don't follow what I did. You can do better. And watch them excel, become police officers, lawyers, judges. and I see it. And in me that drives me is I always let them know, you can be what you want to be, because I'm not going to let that come back and tell you that you can't be.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I'm a gatekeeper to tell everybody, come on in the room. Because if you ain't never been in the room, you don't know what's in the room for you. So that's how I feel. That's the driving force.
Mm-hmm.
So just like what this brother was saying, every adversity that I think I use as a stepping stone, that become an obstacle. It's like I'm in a track meet. You know how that little sprint where you got to jump over the thing?
Mm-hmm.
You know, as long as I get over the hurdle, even if I knock it down, as long as I keep going. Yeah. And I'm saying that to say, it's y'all season now. When you see where the millennials have became the elders of Generation Z, and they be glad to see elders such as myself to tell them how did y'all continue to make it. You know what I mean? So, and you're gonna remember this conversation in here later on in your life, man. Because it's a lot of children that you gonna help when they feel like, hey, what can we do? It ain't gonna be about if you got any degrees and none of that. It's gonna be the fact that you survived from your struggles, man.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful final word. We're gonna wrap on that.
At Goodwill, we transform lives through the power of work. We believe work is at the heart of human potential. Through a bold mission of connecting people to work, preparing people for life, Goodwill Industries of southeastern Wisconsin and metropolitan Chicago is creating meaningful impact in the communities where we live, work, and serve. By eliminating barriers, we are making fulfilling work available to all so that individuals and communities can thrive. Go to goodwillsew.com to learn how to have the power to support our mission.
Once again, our time has come to a close too quickly. Special thanks to our brothers, William, Rico, and Jonathan, for sharing community with us tonight. For those of you watching at home or at work or from your favorite park bench, thank you for continuing on this journey with us. It is our hope that together we can support and encourage one another to give ourselves and each other the space and the grace to be, feel, and with the freedom we deserve to be and feel. The physical and emotional well-being of Black men doesn't always get the spotlight it deserves, but together, we're committed to doing our part to change that. Thank you for stepping into the space with an open mind and an open heart, and a commitment to creating space for brothers to talk and share and learn more about themselves and each other. Until next time, Chicago, I'm Dr. Obari Cartman, and good night. Thank you.